Calling to order the regular meeting of the Wheeling Plan Commission for Wednesday, December 16th, 2020. Please join us in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, first I'd like to introduce Mohammed Malik. Tell me if I'm getting it right.
It's Malik.
Malik.
You got it.
As our new commissioner, he was appointed last week by the village board and sworn in, I believe, Monday.
That's correct.
All right. With that, Mr. Secretary, would you please do the roll call?
Commissioner Belanova.
I'm here.
Commissioner Berkey.
Here.
Commissioner Sprague is here. Commissioner Yedinek.
Present.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Commissioner Malik.
Present.
Chairman Johnson.
Here. Ms. Nye, is there any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes.
All right, then we move on to citizens' concerns and comments. We have some pre-recorded ones, but before I open the hearing, or before, let me just explain. All persons in attendance will be given an opportunity to ask questions, make comments, and so on. If you're participating via computer, at the bottom right of the screen of your computer will be a menu with a tab labeled Participants. If the menu cannot be seen by moving your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom screen, the menu will appear. By clicking on the Participants tab, a window will open. You can find your name and move your cursor over your name and click on the hand icon that says Raise Hand. If you are participating via a cell phone, in the upper left-hand corner is an image of a person with 3 lines. Click on that image and then select Participants. Then on the right-hand corner of your screen will be an icon of a hand, and you can click to raise hand. If you've dialed in on your phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. By clicking on the raise hand icon, you will signal to the chair that you have a question or comment in this case. Village Attorney Maluzzi will acknowledge individuals with questions in order, and when you are acknowledged, please unmute yourself, be sworn in, and then state your name. The swearing in is for the public hearing portions only. As a reminder, if you're not speaking, please keep yourself muted. So, citizens' concerns and comments, what do we have?
So we have 3 recorded messages that were recorded per the public comment notice for docket number 2020-35 for special use for the car wash at 966 South Milwaukee Avenue. So I'm going to play those 3 right now.
Hello, my name is Srikant Atluri. I'm the unit owner for 696 River Mill Parkway, Wheeling, Illinois, 60090. I'm calling in with respect to the public hearing regarding the car wash on 966 South Milwaukee Avenue. I would like to strenuously object to this car wash being so close to my property, which will impact my property values. I've had the property for nearly 19 years, and unfortunately, the value of the property has remained the same, even though our village taxes and everything else seems to be increasing, doubling in my case. Adding this car wash close to my house would even further depreciate my property value, and I once again strenuously object, and I join the other members of the River Mill Condominium Association to vehemently, strongly protest any further construction with the car wash. Thank you much. You have a good day. Bye. This is Srikant Atluri. Thank you.
Hi, I'm calling in regards to a hearing that will be held before the Plan Commission tomorrow, Wednesday, December 16th at 6:30 p.m. In the boardroom of Village Hall in regards to the possibility of H2O car wash being built 250 feet in front of our townhome community, River Mill Crossing. My name is Nancy Maroney. I've lived at River Mill Crossing for 8.5 years and am on our condo board. I'm again in protest of a car wash being built outside of our townhome community at 966 South Milwaukee Avenue. I have the same concerns as previously 2 years ago when another car wash company wanted to build on that same location. The value of our homes will likely decrease with a car wash right outside of our entrance at River Mill Crossing, especially for the townhomes directly across the street of a car wash. And they will live with the noise of a car wash despite what the previous car wash company implied that there would be minimal noise. Traffic is an issue. This is right at the intersection of Milwaukee and Hintz. Undoubtedly, there is going to be a traffic issue. And there are other car washes very close by. Why would we ever need another car wash place to go to? We also, in our community, we have a pond right next to the property that people like to go to see the swans and ducks. And there will be noise that likely will frighten the swans and ducks. We did have a swan actually leave the pond because it was frightened or this didn't have to do with the car wash. And then there's a big concern for the runoff from the car wash into the pond. So, and the safety of the swans and ducks. What concerns me so much is that it appears the Wheeling Plan Commission Board and Wheeling Township doesn't really care about their residents. They care more about tax dollars, and I'm really, really disappointed in this decision. If there is going to be a car wash there, I doubt that anyone would want a car wash right outside of their townhome community. It's just not something that I would want. If this happens, I am thinking of moving. I didn't because it didn't go through 2 years ago. And again, Wheeling, if they don't care about the residents, well, that's shame on them. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hi, my name is Jay Newman. I live in River Mill Crossing. I was at the last meetings for the same type of request. I'm unclear if this is the same company or a different company. I'll treat it like it's the same company. At those meetings, it was pointed out that there would be some problems with this. Among them were noise pollution, water pollution, air pollution, and light pollution. Air pollution and light pollution are both generated by them and the cars coming and going from the facility. The petitioner at that time said that they had ways of mitigating these things, which is wonderful, but you can't eliminate them. And the people sitting right next to this, which is just a mere 100 feet across the road, are going to be impinged by it dramatically no matter what they do. The major problem for this area is the traffic. There's already a traffic issue in this area with trucks entering and leaving the highway. On days when there's a nice day in the middle of winter and it's after a snowstorm and there's cars lined up and trucks and whatever else traffic there would just incidentally be, it would be a mess there. Also, River Mill Crossing is prohibited from making a left turn out of the division here because it goes across 2 lanes of traffic. And if 1 or 2 cars a day, maybe not a day, maybe a morning, maybe a couple, but if a couple cars a day can't make a left turn across the traffic because that's too dangerous, having a business there, it's going to have traffic turning left both directions at times during the day. Even 1 or 2 cars in each direction is going to be a serious problem. And if it's not enough remediation for a pork, no, let me try that again. If it requires the remediation of a pork chop coming out of our facility, the neighborhood, then it certainly should be a problem for them having traffic turning in both directions. So traffic's a problem. What else do I have here? Oh, the economics of it. What I remember from the last meetings were that there's very little benefit economically to the city because there's not a lot of retail sales, so there's not a lot of sales tax. Property taxes go to the county. I suppose some of that filters down to the city, right? Not a whole lot, but they do. What do? They do decorations, they do streets, they do things for us that we don't do for ourselves, so there's some of that. What I remember was that became such an issue at the last meetings that the petitioner suggested that they could add something to the receipt for the city. I don't know if that's still a consideration. If it's not, then I don't see how this can economically be a benefit to anybody except the petitioner. And if they do have to add something to the receipt for the city, then it's probably not a good idea anyway, because you would think it would stand on its own. Okay, thanks a lot. I hope everybody's safe, and I'm sorry we couldn't all be together to do this. It's a shame, but the message system seems to be good enough, I guess. Thanks. Bye.
Do we have any other citizens' concerns and comments?
No.
Okay. We'll get back to some of those issues when we get to that docket. See, so we have no consent items tonight, so the first up is docket 2020-25, special use for auto repair facility at 1044 South Milwaukee Avenue. Ms. Nyes?
Yes, so the applicant is a Midas franchisee.
Sorry, do we want to have
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Secretary Sprague
Yeah,
read?
Secretary Sprague,
Yes.
do your thing.
All righty. Docket number 2020-25, Dale Mueller, leasee, is seeking a special use as required under the Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-06, Commercial Districts, Chapter 19-10, Use, Regulations, and Associated Sections in order to establish a Midas light motor vehicle repair facility located at 1044 South Milwaukee Avenue, which is zoned B3, General Commercial and Office District. A special use, as defined in the zoning code, is a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that their request meets the standards of the village code, including, but not limited to, how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their requests meets the standards for special use as established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Now, Ms. Nyes, any history for this?
Yes, so as just stated, the applicant is seeking a special use to establish a light motor vehicle repair facility. This property was formerly occupied by Corba Auto Repair, and Midas is taking it over. But Corba was considered a legal non-conforming use because it was annexed to the village as this use. So now that the facility is being occupied by a new leasee, the village is requesting or requiring them to get a special use to bring it into conformance with the current code. And just to note that the rear 50 by 60 foot parking lot is not being leased by the petitioner and is not part of this application. The petitioner is also requesting minor site plan approval, which requires approval by the Plan Commission, and staff does not have any conditions on either the special use or the site plan, but first we'll just talk about the special use.
Thank you. Is the petitioner online?
Yes, it should be Paul Fashbanger.
Fashionbauer?
Fashionbauer, sorry.
Okay. You got to get unmuted. Okay. You're unmuted. Ask you to be sworn in. Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth? Okay, you were still muted, but I could read your lips.
I do.
Okay, gotcha. All right, please explain what you're doing here.
This is a simple conversion of an existing automotive facility. The Midas is a franchise operation. The application for special use is actually applied for by our franchisee, Dale Mueller. He is recovering from back surgery at the moment. So I represent TVC Corporation and Midas Corporation. We're the parent company of Midas Franchising. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have regarding the application or site plan.
All right, thank you. Do we have any members of the public that want to speak on this issue?
I guess if anyone in the public who's attending wishes to speak, please use the raise your hand button so I can see so. I am not seeing anyone.
Okay. All right. So moving on, we'll go right to the commissioners. Let's go to Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. Is there a possibility that you will have vehicles stored on a parking lot overnight, like with no wheels or something like that? Or it's a quick repair shop?
It would be a drop-off, same-day service, or pick-up next day. It wouldn't be long-term parking or storage.
Okay. Then that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Yednek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions regarding this special use. I have a couple questions regarding the minor site plan. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Thompson?
No questions for me, thank you.
Commissioner Sprague?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions.
Commissioner Berkey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to clarify, actually it's more towards the minor site plan, so no questions at this time.
All right. And Commissioner Malik?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, and I had no questions on the special use. There are no other questions? You said there were no conditions on this?
That's correct.
Then I would entertain a motion to approve this special use.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Roll
Commissioner
call.
Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Yednek.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Malik.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. And now we need a motion to close the public hearing portion of this, of docket 2020-25.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Yednek.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Malik.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Now moving on to the minor site plan, PC 20-17, minor site plan review for 1044 South Milwaukee Avenue for Midas. Ms. Nyes, anything on this portion?
Nothing further.
All right. Does petitioner have anything they want to bring up on this part of it? Mr. Fashingbauer?
I don't have, no.
Nothing to bring up? Okay. All right. Then again, we'll go to the commissioners. Commissioner Blanova?
I have nothing, thank you.
Nothing? Okay. Commissioner Yednek?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just a couple of quick questions. I was looking at the drawings and then I went and visited the site and they show that you're going to put it, okay, that's good. Yeah, the trash enclosure in our view is going to be like in the bottom southwest corner. But when I went to the site, it looks like that area was fenced in, including the area that is not being transferred from the landlord, that the landlord's retaining that area. When I looked at it, the fence came from the building all the way to the back fence, the very western fence. So are you going to be moving that existing fence that's already there in order to put the trash enclosure on the side of the building, or is the trash enclosure going to be in front of the fence?
The intent was to keep it there at the corner of the building, but the secondary option was to move it across the parking lot into the corner of the last parking space if necessary.
Well, are you familiar with what I'm talking about? I don't know if you've been out there, because it's the current fence is basically a right angle. It's a straight line that goes from the end of the building by the garage doors straight west, and then it angles south. There's no opening where you're showing the current trash enclosure.
Yeah, the intent was to remove that section of fencing to make room for a new pad and gate enclosure at the corner.
Okay, so you're planning on moving that back then?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks. The only other thing I had, it was more of a comment than a question. When I was out visiting, I saw that you've got a couple of feather signs out front advertising tire sale, I think. Just so you know, the current sign code doesn't allow the feather signs. And in the sign code that may be approved that we reviewed last week, you could have the one feather sign and you would need to get a temporary permit for that. But I did see there's two feather signs out there now.
Okay, I'll make note of that and inform our franchisee to apply for a permit or have them removed.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, let me just, step in. We're currently not requiring temporary permits for the first temporary sign, so you do not need to seek a permit for that one.
And can you explain why, just for the record?
Yes, just because due to the whole pandemic, we're trying to make things easier on the businesses in the village.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
No questions for me, thank you.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, sir.
Just a couple of quick questions for you. About the trash enclosure. I see you're going to use cedar wood fencing. Was there any consideration to use composite material instead?
Purely a cost impact. We initially inquired about chain link to keep it at the rear of the property. The landlord's a fencing contractor, I'm told. So we were working with our landlord, and then the cost impact to pour a concrete pad and posts, it was an unknown expense for us. If cedar is acceptable, we'd prefer that.
Okay, well, it's acceptable. The composite is a much better material for wear and tear and less maintenance. That's why I asked.
We can get a bid on that too, and do a comparison. We're not objecting.
Okay, and then I did notice in the picture, I don't know if it depicts exactly what you're going to put in, but the gates go all the way to the ground, and that's not advisable as far as being able to get them open and closed in the wintertime.
Yes, we can submit a better drawing if needed, but yeah, it'll be to whatever code requires.
And then the only other thing is the code requires that there's a metal frame around the gates, and then that the gates are separate on separate posts from the fencing. Just wanted you to be aware of that. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
It's on the notes.
Ms. Nyes, did you have something?
Thank you.
I just was noting that those requirements they've noted on the plan.
Okay.
Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just really got a quick, easy one. Just want to clarify, there are no physical changes going to be taking place to the building other than the new signage for the Midas, correct?
We will be replacing the awning skins. They're currently the Corba burgundy purple. So there'll be Midas awnings. They're procuring a bid right now. And I think we applied for that on the sign application, noting the materials and specs. So that will be the only change. No structural changes to the building.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
That was covered in their sign review?
Yes, that was.
Okay. Commissioner Malik.
No questions, thank you.
And I had no questions on this. Anyone else have any questions? If not, do we have any conditions on this?
No conditions.
All right, with no conditions, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak.
Yes.
Commissioner Belanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Malik.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Thank you. The staff will be getting...
Yeah, I will follow up with you tomorrow on the next steps.
Thank you very much. Moving on to docket 2020-35, special use for car wash at 966 South Milwaukee. Secretary Sprague.
Thank you. Docket number 2020-35, H2O Express Car Wash Incorporated. Property owner is seeking a special use as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-06, Commercial Districts, Chapter 19-10, Use Regulations and Associated Sections, in order to establish a car wash at 966 South Milwaukee Avenue, which is Zone B3, General Commercial and Office District. A special use, as defined in the zoning code, is a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that their request meets the standards of the village code, including, but not limited to, how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of the surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that their request meets the standards for special use as established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes, there's some background on this one.
Yes. So H2O Car Wash is the current petitioner, and they're requesting special use approval for the car wash and associated improvements. So this project, very similar project, previously received a special use and site plan approval with a different petitioner and property owner in 2018 under docket number 2018-23. However, pursuant to the village code, the special use expired because it failed to begin operation within 1 year from the date the ordinance granted the special use. So the new the new property owner, who is the current petitioner, is proposing the same special use and the same project that was approved back in 2018. Since the approval for the special use has expired, the current request for the special use and site plan and building appearance approval is a new petition, and new petitions for new developments are required to have a concept review by the village board before being reviewed by the Plan Commission, unless that's waived by the village manager. And since this project is the same project that was previously approved in 2018, the concept review process was waived, and it's proceeding directly to the Plan Commission for recommendation. So this project, we have the special use that we'll talk about first, and then the next docket is for the major site plan and appearance approval, which requires a recommendation by the Plan Commission and final approval by the village board. The staff reports and all submittals of the petitioner are part of this public record. I did want to note that the applicant did submit a few technical documents that were reviewed by staff. One of them was a series of 80 data sheets for chemicals that are used in the car wash, and staff is not experts in that area, so we're hoping that the applicant can explain if that comes up as a question. I think that was brought up in one of the comments on the phone about the water in the pond. And the applicant also submitted a noise report that concluded that the projected sound levels are below the ambient noise levels at the site, and therefore there are no noise impacts. So again, if the commission has questions, they can ask the applicant about that. And the signs are not part of this proposal. They will be coming at a later date.
Thank you. We have a few new commissioners since this was last approved. So we may have some new questions. The petitioner is here, I presume.
Chris Patel on behalf of H2O Car Wash Express.
Okay.
Oh, and actually, I'm sorry, Nick Standiford is the attorney probably doing the representing.
Okay. Mr. Standiford.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Nick Standiford. I'm an attorney at Shane Banks. So what we're here asking for tonight is a special use approval and a major site plan approval. So we'll handle the first, which is a site plan approval, and then we'll move on to the next after the recommendation is made. Marcy did a good job explaining the history of the project.
Nick, we need to swear you in.
Wait, we need to swear you in first. Do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Now, continue.
Nick Standiford, Shane Banks, address 70 West Madison, Suite 5300 in Chicago. The history of the project was that this project was approved by the village board in 2018. As Marcy said, afterwards, the engineering plans were submitted, various applications were submitted to various permitting agencies such as IDOT, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, the Illinois EPA, all of which were approved. The Gators Bar was demolished that was existing at the time. And unfortunately, all the demolition and everything got backed up, and the special use couldn't be acted upon within that year. So here we are back before the Plan Commission with basically the same plans, but we think they're a little bit improved. They had some more detail. And the biggest improvement was that, all these questions about noise and water and runoff and air and light pollution and traffic, those were all answered either through the traffic report that was submitted the last time or the sound report that was submitted the last time and again this time. But also, more importantly, that IDOT has already taken a look at this and said what we're doing is okay. And the same with the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. We submitted for permit there, and it was approved. And same with the Illinois EPA. So there's various levels of regulation and that we've gone through already, which is abnormal for an application where you're just looking for the zoning entitlement. So I think that really, to the extent that we proved our special use standards in 2018, I think it's we have even more evidence that our application and our project is a good one. So when we talk about the special use standards, those are the standards you'll have to weigh tonight. They're in your packet, and we provided for responses for each of those. And I won't repeat them here, but staff concurred with, for the most part, with all of our proposed findings of fact. And so we believe that the special use standards were fulfilled once and they're fulfilled again. We want to thank staff for helping us get our application back in front of you all, and for to the Planning Commission here for all your public service and for your time tonight. So I'm going to be doing a lot of the presentation tonight, but Mr. Paul Khanna is here. He's the manager of this company, H2O Express Inc. He took over the project from the previous developer. He's an entrepreneur with a business and technology background. He's the co-founder of Millennium Bank and is the managing director of Axiom Technology Group. Paul, can I have you introduce yourself just for now and get sworn in, so in case we need your testimony in a bit, we can have that?
Sure.
Okay, Mr.
Hi,
Chairman.
everyone.
There it is, okay. Yeah. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And Mr. Khanna, what's your business address so they have it for the record?
900 Oakmont Lane.
All right. So another presenter tonight is going to be Chris Patel. He's a partner in the H2O Express Car Wash business with Mr. Khanna, and he's got a background in hotels and restaurants and management, so he'll be talking tonight as well. Mr. Patel, are you here?
I think we have to promote him. Hold on. I think he just had his name as Chris.
Okay, sorry about that.
Give me 1 second.
We'll find him.
All right.
He's somewhere on the
demoted.
computer.
He's demoted for the time being. So we'll get to our architect. Is our architect here?
Is it DMAC Architecture?
It's Neary Architecture.
What was the name?
Michi, MHO, MICHI, MHO.
Could they raise their hand or chat Mallory to let me know who they are and we can promote
I am
them?
on, I thought. He just emailed me.
He's on what?
He said, I am on, I think.
Right, if they don't have their name on it, then we don't know who they are.
All right, so hopefully he's listening here and he can put his name up there, and we'll get to him later. Same with Mr. Patel, unless Mr. Patel has joined us.
It looks like Mr. Patel.
I'm here.
All right, Chris, if you could raise your right hand and prepare to be sworn by the chairman.
Do you swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And please provide your business address for the record.
Sure. 550 East Devon Avenue, Itasca, Illinois.
All right. And I don't know if Mitch got on, but we'll get to him later.
Yeah, I'm not seeing his name, and if he's calling in on his phone, then I need him to maybe do *9 so that I can know which phone number is his.
Okay, very good. We'll wait till he joins up. So
Okay.
thank you for handling that. So if we could start, Marcy, with the first slide. Do you have the one of the exterior conditions?
This one?
The existing conditions, I mean?
Sorry.
That's all right. All right. So here's the property as it looks today. And it's been demolished. There was an old Gators Bar restaurant there, and it's gone. This is facing west. To your left, you can see a big, about 2-story, large public storage. It's called public storage. It's a big storage facility. The other side of the road, there's another big storage facility. Those are large, big box storage facilities. There's not much to see here. The only thing I would mention is this is looking west, so the pond that some of the callers described is just beyond there, and it's a detention pond. You'll see later about our plans is we're proposing to put a large fence up and vegetative screening in, and we'll have our architect, if we can get him on the line, he'll talk about that. So if we go to the next slide, please. All right, so this is facing north. This is the existing 6-foot privacy fence, and you heard some callers from that's the River Mill Development. Those are some townhomes. That fence is owned by River Mill Development. We, at the last, in 2018, there was an agreement that we would repair that fence as part of our approval. We do an agreement with the owner, that development, and we're willing to stick to that agreement now as well. So if you go to slide 3. Okay, this is facing south. So this is a better view of that public storage facility. All right, if you go to slide 4. This is the site plan prepared by Neary Architects. Here's our architect on now, so I'll let him introduce himself, and then he can prepare to be sworn by the chairman.
Hi, my name is Mitch Moe from Neary Architects. Sorry about the delay.
You want to swear him in?
Oh, okay.
Chairman?
There you are. Raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. So we'll let you get the mic in a bit, but I'm going to keep going for just a few more seconds. Marcy, if you could pull up that site plan again, slide 4, please. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is the site plan. This is what we presented for the most part in 2018. Not much has changed. Here's how you get in off Milwaukee, and you can see the access short driveway there. Cars come and get queued to the right. They turn to the right and they can go around. And once they get about halfway through this circle, they get at a pay station. And that's where there's going to be a touch screen where they can pay for whatever kind of car wash they want. There's different features, different car washes you can get. And then it'll queue them right into that car wash building there where the car wash will happen. We talked about the water usage. People are worried. There were some callers about runoff. In the olden days, the car washes used to give off 80 gallons of water, per wash or so. Now I was told that it's about 20. So the technology is a lot better. All the water from in there is self-contained, so it's not going to flow outside of the building or into the street or any of that stuff. These are highly secure and technologically sound facilities. This is a brand new car wash we're putting in. So you'll also see there's an option if people want to vacuum out their cars. There's a set of vacuum stalls on each side that kind of face each other in the middle of the site there. And there's going to be 8 trash bins so that if people want to take stuff and throw it out from their car into the bin, those will be placed along the premises with liners, and the liners will be removed by staff and placed into the trash enclosure. Marcy, if you can, I don't know who's doing the pointing with the slide, but it'd be great if you could go to there you go. Thank you so much. That's where the trash enclosure is located. We'll have Mitch talk about what that's made of and what it looks like from the side in a few seconds here. So you can come through that little that little middle island, and you can. There's going to be a bathroom inside if anyone needs to go to the restroom. So you can park at one of these vacuum stalls, run inside, go to the restroom, do what you need to do. There's little, and then it's of note is there's little 5 parking stalls on the side there. Those will be where the employees will park when they're on site. So those don't have vacuums in front of them. You'll see some really nice pictures of what this is all going to look like in a little bit. We'll also talk about the landscaping. We're providing significant landscaping, even more than the landscaping than it would be otherwise required, and that's to mitigate some of the sound. We don't want complaints about sound or any of that stuff, and we have a sound report saying that there's not going to be appreciable sound to any of the neighbors, but the landscaping will help screen that, and it'll help screen for the appearance as well. And we'll show you pictures of what that's going to look like too. So that's the site plan. The only other thing I would note is that when they went through IDOT, we heard some concerns about traffic. Well, there was a traffic report produced, and they didn't see a big issue with this. Was done by KLOA, a reputable traffic consultant, probably one of the most in Illinois, and they didn't find an appreciable traffic issue here at the site. IDOT looked at this, and they determined that a left out or right in, right out was not appropriate for this particular site. And so what we'll do is we're going to have signage that says you can't do left-hand turns during peak hours. And those are, that's all done through IDOT. And that's one of our conditions, is that we have that IDOT approval for whatever we want to do in terms of access. So those are kind of, I just wanted to talk about some of those questions about sound and all that. We heard some questions about stormwater. So if you see the shaded areas kind of in the center aisle and then on the in the west, those are That's where there's going to be some grasses and some other landscaping, which is a natural, it naturally pre-treats water as it goes into the to the sewer. So there's going to be some outlets there that go into the sewer. I think generally the site drains north, actually towards the River Mill development, and then it goes to the Des Plaines River, which is it looks like almost everything does that. The pond even does that. So so that's kind of how the drainage works. I will go next to slide 5 so that you can quit hearing from me. I'm probably getting annoying by now, so I'll turn it over to the architect, Mitch, who can talk about how these elevations look, what kind of materials and brands we're going to be using, and then we'll get into the renderings after that. So Mitch, you want to take over?
Sure. So, just as an overview of the building in itself, the construction type, it is a solid masonry building. It's brick, veneer, and stone on CMU, so concrete block, is the entire building, all 4 sides, as well as the roof is concrete plank. So, as a whole, the building is obviously quite sound in terms of structure, but also, that same construction also mitigates any sound. The best mitigation for sound is mass and distance, and obviously a building of CMU, concrete block, concrete roof, and masonry walls is about as mass as you can get in terms of sound mitigation. To get into some of the materials, obviously, as I mentioned, it's brick, veneer, and stone. The stone is mostly notable at the base. It's also notable at the columns, the applied columns along the elevation, along the long sides of the elevation, as well as on the tower elements, which I'll get to in a second. Now, in this slide, you can see it's a view from essentially from the vacuum stations towards the building, and what you can see is the columns that support the vacuum canopy, which are designed in the same manner and proportion and materials as the building itself. So stone base, brick veneer, column, and then above that, the support for the canopies themselves is metal, a dark bronze metal, which, we'll get into the materials in a bit. And then the roof of the canopy is standing seam metal roof, same as the towers that you see in this view. And again, we'll see it a little better in other views. But again, same thing, a pitched roof with standing seam metal roof, material. If we can go to to get into the materials themselves, the stone itself is a Fond du Lac stone. It's from Wisconsin. The materials are full bed, so this is real stone. Right from the quarry, they mix it in certain batches to get us a certain color mixture, and that's in our case the Fond du Lac. The brick is a reddish brown brick, which complements the stone in terms of some of the shades, but then is a darker hue to help accentuate the building itself. That's a Sioux City brick. The actual brick is actually called Cherry Creek Williamsburg. So if we can go on to the next slide. Now, this gives you a better, obviously a closer scale detail of what the entrance to the tunnel would be. And it also, like I said, a little bit larger scale, which gives you a better idea of the materials and the design itself. Now, the design of the building is intended to portray a building that aesthetically, it's aesthetically pleasing. The certain elements were designed to intentionally portray a non-industrial building, which by all means, a car wash could be, designed as a car use as an industrial building. In our case, what we did is something that's a little more pleasing, a little more aesthetic, and really could fit in anywhere. A few of the elements that were designed intentionally to that end are the low roof with the large overhangs, the clear story above the entrance, the arched entrance to the wash tunnel. The proportion of the stone to the clear story is intended to give that entrance a little bit more of a marquee. And then also we introduce the arched elements in both the tower, and then you'll see it again here in the vacuum stations, as well as in the pay stations and the vacuum stations across the parking lot from this. And that helps you obviously soften the elements and give it a little bit more of a residential feel, again, not as industrial. So if we can go to the next slide. Now here, this view is from the opposite side, so essentially looking north, the south side elevation. This really gives you a good idea of how we use fenestration and the columns to kind of break up that long facade. You can see that the columns are accentuated in stone, the large expanses of glass, which again help the feel of help break up that elevation, as well as break up that not so industrial looking building. For what you can also see from this view is how the two towers bookend the building, accentuating the entrance and the exit. And you can see where the stone base helps ground the building as a foundation, and then the brick above. Again, I mentioned the roofs for the towers are standing seam metal, and then you can clearly see the clear story in this view. If we can go to the next slide. Now here's the exit side of the building, of the wash tunnel itself. So this side faces Milwaukee. As you can see, very similar to the entrance side.
We're seeing the west entry elevation, not the exit.
Should be. This is the. Oh. Okay. Well, the west entry. So did we go back? Do you have the east? Oh, did we look at the west first?
Yeah, we already looked at this.
Yeah. If you go to the exit elevation. So that's the entry side, right?
There it is.
That one. There we go. So I can see how you get confused. It's a mirror of the other side. Like I said, the tower is meant to marquee the entrance and the exit, and same elements apply here. Now, one of the things that we are proud of is that we design a building with 4 sides. So, intentionally, there's not a front and a back. All 4 sides are designed as a composition of themselves and as a part of the whole building. So we can go to the next slide. So this is a portrayal of the view from across River Mill Parkway. As you can see, the lush landscaping is, as a matter of fact, the large tree there is existing. Beyond the fence, what you'll see is all the landscaping that's intended to be installed just on the other side of the existing fence. As I'll point out in the landscaping plan, those will be planted as coniferous. They'll be planted at a minimum of 10 feet. Again, part of the intent of that planting and of the screening is to not only screen the view, but also it helps quite a bit with sound. Again, mass and distance. The other thing you see in this view is the distance of where the building itself actually is. You can see it's on the far side from River Mill Parkway, and in all intent and purposes, it would add interest to the view of the storage unit building on the other side of that. The detail, this is the same style fence that would also occur on would be the west side of the property, between our property and what would be the pond on the other side. Next slide. So now we start getting into the actual renderings of the building, which, you know, really start to show the relationship and the proportions of the different elements to themselves into the site. Here you can see the idea of the landscaping that would be installed in all the landscape areas around the drives. It's intended to, you know, have color is, you know, varying color throughout the year, as well as some low line plans that help at the foundation of the buildings and really give an inviting feel to the property. You also get a good idea here of the color schemes and how they interact with each other and what the scale of the tower itself is as you enter the tunnel and as you drive around it. Next slide. So this is the same entrance side. So what would be the west side? Only this one looks more towards what the vacuum at the vacuum stalls. So again, this really gives you a good idea of how we've introduced the same elements and proportions of the building, same materials, color palette, onto the vacuum station. So we have a cohesive design throughout. And you can see the arched canopies of the vacuum stations, which use the same materials as the roof, but with an arch that kind of helps soften the actual element of the vacuums. All right, the next slide shows the exit side. So again, portrays exactly what I've been saying, that all four sides are designed, are composed. The exit side, or I should say the entrance side, which could be considered the back, is a mirror of the front. The other elements you can start to see here is the trash enclosure just beyond, and the bike rack just on the corner of the building there. Both elements, again, designed to be a cohesive element as part of the entire architecture and design of the building. Next slide. So here you get a good view looking back through the vacuum stations and at the long side of the building. Again, you can see that, you know, beyond the vacuum stations, you see how much glass there is, how much fenestration, which is not only intended to break up the length of the building, but also in the case of these car washes, is also a view to the operations on the inside. On the opposite side of the south side of the building, where we have all that glass, it's intentional to show the equipment on the inside. To be honest, it's expensive equipment. It should be shown off. It's quite impressive of an operation. Here you also get a real good view of where the bike rack is located. While this design of the bike rack isn't the proposed, this is more of a generic one. The one that's proposed is a much more designed and pleasing bike rack. Next slide. So here's an aerial view looking what would be northwest. Gives you a good idea of the amount of landscaping that's proposed, where it's proposed, the different colors of plantings that we intend. You also can see kind of off, you know, a little bit off to the far side, the amount of coniferous trees that are intended and the height of those as you know, as they pertain to, you know, you can see the scale based on a car. We do intend on, you know, making that screening as plush as possible. Next slide. So here are more detailed views of what would be the pay station on your left and the trash enclosure to the right. Again, same idea. Materials and color palette are the same as on the building. The roof structures, the roof structure of the pay station, very similar to the vacuum stations, and same material as the towers on the building. And on the trash enclosure, same thing, same materials. The the material for the door would be, again, a dark bronze metal lockable door. Next slide. So an aerial view of the landscaping plan. Again, here it details out each species of plant, so you can kind of see that based on it's probably hard to read, but you can see that schedule of planting off to the left-hand side there. There's quite the variety of plants with the intention of as much color year-round as we can. And then again, showing that the north property line where we really plan on intensifying the landscaping along that side with, again, arbor vitae, evergreen plants, taller trees, again, the screening that is intentional for this property. Here you can also see a little bit, it may be hard, the gray areas where Nick was talking about where we would have more of a detention, retention, stormwater management areas, which would be also planted with more, water-friendly plantings. And then on the west end, again, the lush planting, really against the side that is quite dense with landscaping as it is, but to complete the design and of the entire site. Next slide. This one, as boring as it may seem, is the irrigation plan. A number of zones which, will work automatically. This way we're not, we're intentionally and will clearly keep the landscaping intact and alive and as lush as we can all year round. Next plan. So then the photometric plan. And here really obviously on a site like this with the intended use, there will be light poles. There's lighting under the canopies, the vacuum stations, and there's also building mounted light fixtures. But the real intent here is to show that if you kind of get into the detail of this plan, you'll see that there is no light spillage over the lot lines. I know one of the things that municipalities have to deal with is light pollution from other properties. The light fixtures are such now that they can direct light exactly where it's intended and keep it from going where it's not. So we do have a lighting consultant who took great care in laying this out, specifying the light fixtures, the poles, the proper heights, in order to confirm and make sure that we don't have light spillage and light pollution over the property line that will distract or bother any residents. Next slide is the material. So as you can see here, these are essentially what you saw in the renderings. Brick veneer, stone, Fond du Lac rustic stone, the sheet metal, dark bronze sheet metal standing seam roof, columns and beams of the canopy and pay stations, which will match in color. The white of the clear story towers just above the stone, and then the sills and headers will be cut stone, limestone. As I mentioned, the stones will all be full bed stones. They're not a half brick veneer, and they're actually quarried stone. And the next slide portrays the intent of the bike rack. That'll be a black powder coated bike rack, and then the garbage cans that, as Nick mentioned, would be around the site in order to make sure that the site is kept clean. There'll be plenty of them at various points along the vacuum stations where people will be cleaning out their cars, and this will be manned by employees to empty it out regularly.
All right, so that's the end of the slideshow. So thank you, Mitch, for going through that. I think for the board, I think it's clear that there a lot of care went into this. I mean, this has been, we've had Neary architects do the renderings just so that you can all see that this is going to be a really high quality car wash. I mean, better than any I've ever seen, frankly. So I just want to, I'll bring in Mr. Khanna, Paul, to talk about how he got involved in the project and maybe the timeline for construction, so you can just be filled in on that. So Paul, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Paul Khanna. So I met with the previous owners. They had difficulty in getting financing, so that's when I purchased the project from them. I anticipate as soon as we get approved to be able to break ground as soon as the weather agrees with us.
All right, and you took care of the demolition of the old Gators Bar, which is what I know people wanted it down, and you took care of that.
Yes, I did last year.
And all right, and then introduce us to Chris. How did Chris get involved in the project?
So Chris is my partner on a number of other projects, and he had an interest in this, so that's how I brought him into this.
All right, and employees on site at once?
We anticipate to have about 4 to 5 employees. We'd have one at the front of the tunnel. We'd have someone there. The fourth person would probably be someone floating, whether they need to be in the office or wherever something is needed.
All right, and the proposed hours of operation, that's 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 8 to 6 on Sundays?
Yes.
Okay. And then I had a question about the $3 express car wash signage that we were proposing. That's just the proposed low rate. If people want to get upgrades, they can do that, right?
Correct. So the touchscreen has a different number of different menus, so they can select whatever they want, a la carte or the works. So they have a few different options.
All right. So that's our presentation to the Plan Commission. If we welcome your questions, and we'll leave the floor to you all.
Thank you for a very complete package there. Do we have any public?
I don't have anyone with their hand raised now. Just a reminder to, if any of the attendees in the panel are members of the public who want to speak during this public hearing, they need to raise their hand, either by pressing, and it's not raising your hand on the screen, it's pressing the raise hand button, or hitting *9 if you're on the phone. I do not have anyone with their hand raised. I will let you know if something happens while the commission's going, but right now no one's there.
All right, so we're going to take this to the commissioners. Right now, we're just dealing with the special use. We'll get back to any details on the site plan once we get done with the special use. So, Commissioner Berkey.
I have nothing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No questions.
All right, Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. I have nothing in this one. Thank you.
Commissioner Malik.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing.
Commissioner Thompson.
No questions for me, thank you.
And Commissioner Yednick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No questions on the special use. I do have some questions on the site plan. Thank you.
And I have no questions on the special use at this point. Do we have conditions on the special use?
No conditions.
All right.
Is the IDOT condition not on the special use?
It's on the site plan.
Okay. That's fine. No, that's fine.
We're good? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I knew it was there. I didn't know which one it was on.
All right, so a motion to approve the special use.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Yednack.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Malik.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Now we need a motion to close the public hearing portion of this.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Yednak.
Yes.
Commissioner Belanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Malik.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. All right, moving on to the major site plan and appearance review for the car wash, which is PC 20-23. Ms. Nyes, anything pertaining to this?
Yes, staff has some recommended actions, and then some conditions. So 1 is just an action, and then 1, 2, 5 are conditions. Do you want me to read those?
Sure.
Okay, so the first action is that, and I think this has been clarified already, but the Plan Commission should seek verification from the petitioner on whether the existing north fence will be replaced in its entirety or repaired as needed. I think we've clarified that it's repaired as needed. Nick, let me know if that's incorrect.
Correct.
Okay. So the conditions we had were specification sheets for exterior building light fixtures shall be submitted with building permit application. Number 2, prior to permit issuance, a draft public access agreement for the sidewalk shall be reviewed and approved by staff. Number 3, revised trash enclosure detail shall be submitted before the village board meeting. Number 4, if a looping water main is proposed, then a draft plat of easement shall be provided prior to permit issuance. And number 5, the final configuration of the access to and from Milwaukee Avenue shall be subject to approval by IDOT, including improvements to the median to facilitate left turns into the site and a physical restriction on turning movements as opposed to signage alone for movements not specifically allowed by IDOT.
Thank you. Would the petitioner, or any of the petitioners like to comment on any of that before we move on? I know your presentation was very complete, but if there's anything you want to add at this point?
We're going to do the same presentation all over again.
No.
Yeah, we're fine with the conditions, and we're going to repair the fence as needed, and all the other conditions are fine. We're going to do the looping water main, and we think there's going to be more than enough water that's going to be available for the hydrants and all that. So we'll propose we'll put together the draft easement, we'll put together the sidewalk easement. Those are all fine. And so I think just for the record, we'll incorporate what we've said for our special use, our testimony there for our site plan approval here to spare everyone some time.
Yeah, and actually, I believe the trash enclosure detail was revised, and what you see here is the revised version. So I don't think that needs a condition. Unless somebody
Correct,
thinks
that should be the right one.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll see what the commissioners have to say. So we'll start with Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do not have any questions.
All right, Commissioner Belanova.
Thank you. I see that thank you so much. The packet is full. I don't really have that many questions, but I do have one concern on the screening. I see that you planted a lot of trees, but just for those neighbors to clarify. For example, if I live in a River Mill townhome and my windows happen to be on that side where the operation going, will I see anything except the trees? Is it how tall are those? Is it like 10 feet? Like how tall is it?
I believe it's a 6-foot privacy fence. How big did the trees get, Mitch?
Well, there's a variety of trees there, but for the most part, they'd be planted at 10, which is actually pretty large in terms of install size, but they will grow to 20, 25, depending on the species. So they really shouldn't see a whole lot, especially looking down and from the distance.
Marcy, isn't there a rendering for the proposed view from Riverwoods?
Yeah, actually, I want to clarify something. I think this is labeled incorrectly. I apologize, I read the plan wrong. If you can see this. So this is the view from River Mill looking at the site. So this is their existing fence, and that's the vegetation that's proposed. This fence, which on the plan, if you have the plan in front of you, it was next to this picture, but it had a different label, and that's the proposed rear fence. So I thought they went together, but I hope that clarifies that the proposed rear fence is on the west side, and that's what the detail is, but this picture is for the north fence that's not being replaced.
That picture is for the demonstrative purposes there. But yeah, the detail is what would be the detail for the west fence in the rear of the property. This is the view from Park Mill, River Mill.
So Commissioner Blanova, I believe that what they had stated was if at the time of installation at the 10 feet, that's kind of what a resident would typically see, and those trees would continue to get bigger.
Yeah, which is good enough.
Yeah, and I think that came out of the previous time they went through, the vegetation was proposed smaller, and after concerns from the residents, they did agree to make the plants taller. Normally, we don't require trees to be put in at 10 feet.
Yeah, I was present at that time as well. Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Malik.
I have no questions at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. I would like to clear up just a little confusion, maybe only on my part, but in your project description letter, you explain that the existing wooden fence along the north property line is deteriorating and will be replaced with a new 8-foot wooden panel fence that will continue to provide screening for the adjacent residential properties. And that was dated 11/4/2020. Has things changed since then, or?
That was my mistake, Mr. Commissioner. I didn't know there was a previous agreement to repair the fences needed, and I didn't know that it was owned by the River Mills. I thought it was I thought that was on our property. Mm-hmm. So we thought it would be easier to work with them on repairing it rather than having to pull a permit and do all that work to replace it. Mm-hmm. So that was
I'm sure they wouldn't mind though if you replaced it.
Yeah. I think we can have that discussion with them.
Because an 8-foot fence would be much better for the residents than a 6-foot, as far as noise and. All right, moving on. Was it confirmed that the trash enclosure is going to be on a concrete slab?
Yes, it will be.
Yeah, and actually, I take back what I said earlier. I'm sorry. The condition remains because there is no detail on the plans. There's the picture of the trash enclosure, but there is no actual detail unless someone can point that out to me on the plan.
Not on what's shown on the slides, but it will be a concrete. It will be a concrete slab.
Right. That's just why the condition was added to the minor site plan, because it just needs to be added into the documents.
Okay, yeah, and that will be obviously confirmed when we go in for permit. But yeah, that's.
Yeah, and it'll need to be on a slab. That's a permit requirement.
And another question I had about the trash enclosure. I noticed you're going to have your vacuum collection tank inside that enclosure also?
Correct.
And there will be sufficient room for a dumpster and the tank?
Yes.
You won't have problems with the dumpster crashing into your collection tank?
No, the collection tank goes towards the back of that structure. You know, actually where the tubes for the vacuum come through. And we've done this in other places, and this is a typical size enclosure for both the vacuum equipment and the dumpsters.
Okay, thank you.
Not a problem.
You mentioned you're going to use concrete block for the building.
Yeah, it's a CMU.
Was there
CMU structure.
any consideration on using any kind of fill in the concrete block to increase sound deadening?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. The sound tests that we've done for this type of building, I mean, really, you know, and being that far from the north property line or the residences, really don't require it. It's not needed, especially, you know, it's an 8-inch block with 4-inch veneer. It really should be sufficient. And you know, and the other part to that is the concrete roof, which in itself is another 8 inches plus 2 inches of concrete topping. So, you know, as a whole, the structure is pretty sound deadening.
Okay, thank you. The hours of operation on Sundays, is that the 8 in the morning till 6 in the evening? Is that anything that's flexible as far as maybe a little too early in the morning?
Yeah, we're flexible with that.
Okay, because that seems a little early on Sundays for a car wash to be operating next to residential area. My last question is more for Kyle, I think. I was just wondering if the water detention on the property is sufficient.
Yeah, water has been approved by MWRD. The stormwater detention has. So as far as the release rates are concerned, the capacity is concerned, there should be no issues.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
Yes, thank you. I just first want to say that I do appreciate the concerns of the residents over this because, I mean, not only, I mean, there's the noise and the ponds that they're worried about, but also just not having something that really complements a residential area is a little hard. I understand because just turning into where you live, or if somebody's trying to sell a home and any potential buyers turn into the area, nobody's going to say, oh, great, and it's right by a car wash. So, but I do appreciate your presentation. I think that it does look nice, and it won't stand out like when we think of what a car wash looks like. It'll look a little bit more pleasing to anybody that does live in the area. So I do appreciate those concerns though that they have, because their property values could potentially be affected by it. My one concern though with the lights is that I've been by these car washes before, and a lot of them are lit up like a carnival. Like, I know that you've worked on, you know, how far reaching, you know, is the lights and things like that. But there's also those towers that are up there that, will those stay lit up, and do they stay lit up at night?
You know, part of that will be an operational question, but the intent and the use that we've done in the past is that they aren't lit up like 24 hours. They are lit up during the hours of operation. It is a clear story, so they are windows. But the light intensity coming out of those is more of a, you know, light out of your window, not so much a beaming light out of the, you know, like a floodlight of any kind. So it is a softer light, and again, being to the southeast corner of the property is furthest away from from the residents as possible, it really shouldn't be a concern. The other is that it's such, especially to the west, it's so heavily vegetated that again, it shouldn't be an issue to the residents to the west.
Do those get
And
turned
this isn't
off?
intended to be lit up like like a carnival. I've seen those, and it's neon
Yes.
lights all over the place. And yeah, no, this is a much more pleasing, less subdued. It's something that goes along more with the architecture, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate the look of it, for sure. But so do those lights on the towers turn off at night, or would those still stay illuminated even at night? Or after you're closed, I should say.
Paul, I would assume the intention is that they turn off at night, but I'll let Paul answer that probably.
Yes, it would be turning off at night, so we could work out what hours they stay on till.
That was all I had. Thank you.
Commissioner Yednick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I have a few questions. Thank you, gentlemen. Very thorough presentation. If you would have repeated it twice, I probably would have voted no. But yeah, it was very detailed. You answered a lot of questions. One question I did have had to do with, I thought I read somewhere that these were new owners, and I think you clarified that. Before I get to the petitioners, I did have one quick question for Marcy. You mentioned something about pork chop turning, and I have no idea what that is supposed to reference. Can you explain that?
It's that piece of concrete in the middle.
Yeah, it's
between
like center curbing that you'll see in some driveways that
So this is forces the right out?
Yeah, it doesn't allow you to go left out.
Okay, but they're not going to have to do this if they get approval from IDOT to make left turns in, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So if IDOT does not approve, if IDOT only approves right in, right out, then you want a condition that they have to build that concrete to physically control the cars.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that would be part of what they learned from IDOT.
Correct. Okay. All right, then I understand. Okay. Yeah. Well, we just finished on the lights, so I guess was wondering. I'm assuming you have to leave some operational lights on in after hours, but do you have any guesstimate on the percentage of lights that are shut off, and are the towers shut off at the same time? Maybe Mr. Patel or Mr. Khanna can answer that question.
So the tower lights will be only operational during the business hours. Typically, the lights on the parking lot will be on a timer. Those will only be on during those peak, and a portion of the parking lot lights will be on during the off-peak hours, just to security to the building and the location.
That's what I figured. Yeah. Okay. And the towers. Anybody renting out the east tower? It looks like a nice view to the river. It looks like an apartment up there. I was wondering if I could put an offer. Then the other thing, the water control. You talked about detention, but how does the car wash itself? Do you reclaim the water and treat the water and then put it into the sewer system? I know there's a lot of rules these days around car washes. You just can't dump it into the sewer system as is. So do you reclaim all of it and then it gets trucked off to be treated? How's that work?
So I don't know the exact answer to that question. I was on the phone with the engineer today, trying to figure it out. But in our report, it says that they're directed to drains within the facility in compliance with the MWRD and the EPA.
I can answer this.
All right.
So when the water is, after it's done washing the car, it enters probably what's called a triple basin, or a basin of sorts inside the car wash, and then it goes into the sanitary sewer system. All this water does not flow into the storm sewer system, does not flow into the detention basins. It does go into the sanitary sewers, where it goes into a water treatment facility before it's reclaimed. So I can't speak to the actual car wash if they reclaim any of the water, but once it is used and they can't reuse it anymore, it does go into the storm or the sanitary sewer system and gets treated at a water treatment facility. So,
Okay, so
none of that will end up in a detention basin.
So the retention that we're talking about, that's just storm and snow melt.
When rain falls on the parking lot, when rain falls on the building, it will make its way into the storm sewer system and into the detention basins. The water that is used in the actual car wash itself will make its way into the sanitary sewers and then will get treated separately.
Oh, that's captured and treated. Okay, thank you. Then I'm also sympathetic to the neighbors' concerns. However, it looks like you guys have gone above and beyond, like you said, the location of the building, location of the exit and the dryers. It's all as far away as you could. And I was wondering how much you were going to plant up the north border of the wall, but it looks like that whole fence line is going to be pretty much landscaped. So you're going to have that additional buffer. The one concern I had about though is that the northernmost line of vacuums, there's not that much buffer behind them. How loud are those vacuums when they're operating?
They're really not, especially since it's what would cause the most noise is the equipment, which is inside the CMU trash enclosure, the CMU, and again, 4-inch masonry trash enclosure, and even those, the new equipment isn't loud. It's all been tested, for a minimal decibel at the property line.
And the petitioners are the owners of this property, correct? You can just shake your head.
Yes, that's correct.
Then in the couple things. So on this site, you are not going to offer any detail services, or you're not going to have the typical, like when you go to a car wash, you pull out where you have attendants that are manually drying the cars.
No, we don't.
That's not going to be part of this offer services. Then I also saw that you said at one point in time that you might have some limited retail sales, but I couldn't figure out where you would have that in the property. Is it going to be so small that just, maybe some air fresheners, or is that a planned future? Because the only thing I saw was maybe like a little break room at the end of where the cars come out at the east end of the facility.
That's correct. There's a vending area in that room.
Okay, so not retail sales like some car washes sell car mats and air fresheners and ashtrays or other supplies. Okay. Then where are you going to locate the pay station for the vacuums? How does that work?
The vacuums are free.
Okay, so they do that after or before, or either or. They can either vacuum and then go to car wash, or okay. Let's see what I had. Oh, I was just curious because it looks like you're using pretty much all of the site. What are your plans for snow removal and snow storage? How are you going to manage that on site?
We'll contract for that in terms of where it'll be, where they'll put the snow, you mean? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's more like, because I think you're going to need to clear that back. The back aisle needs to probably be open for the fire department. And it didn't look like there was really anywhere like a back parking lot that you could retain big snow piles. If we had a big event, how are you going to try to manage that? That's what I was wondering.
For the most part, it's going to be handled in the beds. Snow will be pushed off onto the, because at that point, obviously, plants will be dormant. And any excess, would on the beds and really there's more landscaping now on the site than there is currently. So it'll get piled up in the beds and should be handled pretty efficiently, I would think.
Okay, I did see there's one area just on the north side, just north of the northern vacuums. It looks like a car staging area or a pull-out area. I don't know if that might be a possibility where you might be piling, but you have to move snow all the way around from the back of the building into that area. I don't know what that purpose of that area is for. Is just for people to go get change out of their pockets or pull their credit cards while they pull over or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think the last question I had is, this just threw me off. The project letter references something about 500-pound benches, and I didn't understand what that was referencing and where those, is that something that's going to be located inside the waiting area, the vending area?
Oh, that was referencing the chairs in the waiting area with 500-pound capacity.
Oh, capacity. Okay. Oh, there it is. Antimicrobial. Oh, that's in the waiting area. Okay. And the other thing, yeah. So this is the type of car wash where the patron's going to stay in their car the whole time. They'll ride through the wash.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. So you don't need a big waiting area or a staging area for the customers then. We just check. I believe that's all the questions I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sprague, going back to your hours thing, I was just curious why you didn't have a problem with 7 a.m. for the rest of the week.
Well, work week versus a weekend.
Okay, but weekend includes Saturday, you know.
Okay, well, we can include Saturday in the later hours if you prefer.
Well,
That's fine.
Just wondering.
No, it's a valid point. I agree.
Let's see, what else did I have? You guys covered just about everything. Kyle, anything else from engineering?
Nothing else. As was mentioned before, this project has been revived, and it, did go through all the IEPA, MWRD approvals, and IDOT approvals, I believe, as well. And, I think they got all those approvals, so we don't really have any additional concerns.
All right, thank you. Mr. Antor, anything from the fire department?
Not at this time. All of the concerns that we had were originally addressed in the first go-round. And at this point, if it gets approved, any of the items would be addressed during the building permitting process.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm going to do a quick poll then concerning the start hours. Petitioners already agreed to start a little later on Sundays, but what's everybody's feeling for the weekdays and Saturday? Commissioner Berkey, you okay with what they're proposing, or would you like them to start a little later?
I don't see a problem with the hours as they are.
Okay. Commissioner Blanova?
I don't mind. It could be a later if they're okay with it.
Commissioner Malik?
I agree with the hours. It works for me.
And Commissioner Sprague?
I would prefer a little bit later on the weekend, but it looks like I'm the only one.
No, you're not. Commissioner Thompson?
I'm okay with the hours.
And Commissioner Yednick?
I'm okay with the hours proposed by the petitioners.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Sprague, you and I are by ourselves, I guess. I would have gone a little bit later, at least on Saturday, but they may find that they don't have any business that early, and we'll change it. All right. Any other questions from the commission? And Mallory, we didn't have anybody raising their hands?
Well, this is the site plan, so there wouldn't be any.
Oh, that's true, yeah. Okay. So, Marcy, conditions.
Okay. Number 1, specification sheets for exterior building light fixtures shall be submitted with the building permit application. Number 2, Prior to permit issuance, a draft public access easement for the sidewalk shall be reviewed and approved by staff. Number 3, a revised trash enclosure detail shall be submitted before the village board meeting. Number 4, if a looping water main is proposed, a draft plat of easement shall be provided prior to permit issuance. Number 5, the final configuration of the access to and from Milwaukee Avenue shall be subject to approval by IDOT, including improvements to the median to facilitate left turns into the site and a physical restriction on turning movements, either full or partial pork chop, as opposed to signage alone for movements not specifically allowed by IDOT.
All right, with those conditions, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Yednat,
Yes.
Commissioner Belanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Malik,
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Marcy, this will be going to the village board then for final?
Yes, this
On
will
both?
go to the village board in January, both the special use and the major site plan, so I can follow up with you tomorrow on this.
Thank you. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Was this a public hearing?
Yes.
Do we need a vote to close the public hearing, or?
We closed the public hearing, that was for the special use.
Okay.
So this part was not.
All right. Thank you all very much for your time and service and consideration. We appreciate it. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Thank you for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to docket number 2020-36. Special use for drive-through at an existing restaurant at 1590 East Lake Cook Road.
I'm ready.
Go ahead, Secretary Sprague.
Docket number 2020-36, Cafe Zupas, the leasee, is seeking a special use as required under Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Chapter 19-10.060, non-residential use regulations and associated sections in order to permit a drive-through in the B1 Planned Shopping Center zoning district for the property located at 1590 East Lake Cook Road. A special use, as defined in the zoning code, is a use of parcel of land that requires review and consideration before approval due to the potential for negative impacts on surrounding properties. In order to be considered for a special use, the petitioner is required to demonstrate through testimony to the Plan Commission at a public hearing that their request meets the standards of the village code, including but not limited to how the proposed use will not damage the enjoyment or use of surrounding properties. Prior to the public hearing, the petitioner provides written statements meant to show that the request meets the standards for special use as established in Title 19. The commission chairperson will typically direct that these statements be entered into the record without a full reading of them at the hearing. Based upon the testimony and supporting materials submitted, the Plan Commission will make findings in support of or against the petitioner's testimony and report those findings to the village board.
Thank you. Ms. Nyes.
Okay, so Zupas is looking for the special use to permit the drive-through. If you remember recently, we had amendments to the land use regulations for permitted and special use uses. We changed the classifications for restaurants from special uses to a permitted use, but drive-through facilities still require a special use. And even though Cafe Zupas restaurant obtained a special use previously for their sit-down restaurant, they still have to come through for this special use for the drive-through. The next docket is for a minor site plan, so that'll be approved if you choose here at the Plan Commission, and that'll be discussed at the next docket, and the conditions are associated with the site plan.
Thank you. Hey, who do we have here from the petitioner?
We have Edgar and Travis.
All right, I need to swear you both in. Raise your right hands. You swear the testimony you're giving tonight to be the truth?
Yes.
Very well. As you take your turn speaking, repeat your name and business address for our record.
Sure. Edgar Separitas, 860 West Universal Circle in Sandy, Utah.
And Travis Larson, 460 West Universal Circle in Sandy, Utah.
Sorry, 460. It's getting late. I listened to that whole last presentation.
Yeah. we still got one to go.
Oh, one thing I did forget to mention is that the signs that are proposed or shown, they are not part of this approval. They have to get a separate permit for that. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, so tell us what you're doing here.
Sure. As I'm sure everyone's aware, the restaurant industry has been significantly impacted by COVID. And in the state of Illinois, the restrictions have been placed on us relative to the dining room closures. And those restaurants that really fared the best coming out of or coming through this were those that had drive-thrus in place. In June, we opened our first drive-thru restaurant here in Utah. When we initially opened this restaurant, it was not something we had done nor really contemplated. So the Fifth Third Bank that was already in place here had drive-thrus, which we demolished and added parking spaces in the back. What we'd like to do is really give ourselves a better leg or kind of recover from where we stand today, add drive-thrus to those restaurants that are feasible, and at the same time also kind of refresh kind of the restaurant that's been open here a few years. In addition to obviously the pandemic, we've had the good pleasure, like all of you there in Wheeling, of dealing with the construction on Lake Cook Road in Wyland. So we've had the double whammy here in the last 12 months. And so we're trying to position ourselves for long-term success.
Thank you. Anything else? Mr. Larson or?
Nope.
Okay. Do we have any public comments pending out there?
If anyone from the public wants to speak on this, please use the raise your hand feature within Zoom, including *9 for anyone who's calling in. And I do not see anyone's hand raised.
All right, then we'll move on to the commissioners. Let's stir things up. Let's go to Commissioner Sprague first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions.
Commissioner Thompson.
No questions for me, thank you.
Commissioner Yednick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No questions on the special use, just a couple on the site plan.
All right. Commissioner Berkey.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Blanova.
No questions on this one, thank you.
And Commissioner Malik.
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions on the special use. Are there any conditions on this?
No conditions.
Then I would like to hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Yedinek.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Malik.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Before we move on to the site plan, then we need a motion to close the public hearing portion of 2020-36.
So moved.
Commissioner Yedinek.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Malik,
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. All right, so PC 20-24, minor site plan and appearance review for Zupas, 1590 East Lake Cook Road. Ms. Nyes, anything additional?
I just have the comments if you'd like me to read those.
Sure.
Or the conditions, sorry. There's 4 conditions that we're proposing. A revised site plan shall be submitted with the building permit submittal identifying the new location of bicycle parking. Number 2, prior to the issuance of a building permit, a lighting plan shall be submitted identifying the proposed exterior lighting and include light fixture specifications. Number 3, a revised site plan shall be submitted with a building permit submittal identifying further improvements to the pavement markings and striping to improve traffic circulation and parking. And number 4, a revised landscape plan shall be submitted with the building permit, which includes native plantings or shrubs along the northern facade by the drive-through window where there is currently a blank space.
Thank you. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, anything that the petitioners would like to add at this point?
I think at this point, just welcome your questions and comments.
All right. Commissioner Malik.
I don't have any questions at this time.
Commissioner Berkey.
I have a quick question. Are you planning to add additional employees to work in the drive-through for this when the drive-in is in?
No, our drive-through has the kiosk ordering system, and the way that it is presented is we have one drive-through lane, and the second lane is really a bypass. Oh, sorry, not a bypass. It's a mobile order lane where you will place your order previously, and you have a scheduled time when it's prepared, and so you don't have to wait in the queue behind those people ordering. You can skip that portion of it and then merge in at the front. And then just pick up your order and go. That's already paid. You've already paid and ordered. It's merely just kind of a pickup window for the mobile order.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then I know it says that you don't expect to have an issue with parking, even though you're subtracting a few of the parking spaces. In the event that it does get more congested there, do you have a plan for overflow?
I guess the simple answer would be the drive-through should lessen the demand on the interior seating and therefore should not create a parking issue. We added, and I don't remember, Travis, maybe you know off the top of your head how many parking spaces when we tore the canopies down to increase the parking on the site. And
everything that's behind the building essentially has been added when we did it. So this is just taking out about half of what we added when the bank was there. But we found at our other drive-through that the interior dining, although still was quite a few people, a lot of people have moved over to this. This is just kind of the way that we've seen everything moving, where they can just drive through at a given time and pick up the food and just drive away. And so we are seeing significantly less parking in our restaurants where we're doing this drive-through.
Great. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Commissioner Thompson.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Commissioner Yednick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I couldn't find the unmute switch. Yeah, a couple questions. I think one of them has already been answered as far as the bike rack, because I think the demolition plan and some of the plans say that you're retaining the bike rack, but you're going to protect it. But then the color elevations show that whole wall is bricked in. So is the bike rack staying where it's at? But I think Marcy said there's a condition that you have to clarify what you're doing as far as the bike rack. So do you know what you're doing yet at this point?
We will be relocating it, but it will be on site.
So where it's at now is going to be closed in. That part of when you're looking at the north elevation, it looks like just to the right of that trash bin there, that was where the bike rack was, and now you're going to wall that in. Is that true?
It's That elevation doesn't change. It's just, it's not an ideal location for a bike rack. So it's going to need to be relocated to a different location that's a little bit more conducive. So we'll just have to find a location. We can make sure it's on our plan when we submit for permit.
Okay, and then I was wondering what the CZ dash lane was, but I think you explained that. But after you explained it, I was wondering, have you used that system in other locations?
It's currently operational in our St. George, Utah drive-through.
But you're in Illinois now. I was just wondering, do you have any conflicts where somebody gets there early and they're holding up your window while people are trying to come through? You know, what do you do for somebody that shows up 10 minutes early for their order and they pull up to the window and say, "Well, I'm waiting. I called it in." I mean, how do you manage the traffic?
So we ask those guests to pull off to a parking space, and when the meal is ready, we'll bring it out to them.
Okay, so you don't have any. You manage the conflict internally then.
Correct. Yeah, we sometimes they're early, sometimes we're late, and we want to make sure we accommodate them, and we'll bring it to them rather than them having to wait at the window.
I used to travel to Utah a lot. Everybody's polite in Utah, but not so much in Illinois. The other thing I was just curious, the images where you show the color renderings, are you going to do those colors? That one wall is real bright. I guess I've been told that we can't really vote on colors, but that one, the east elevation, is that what you're planning?
That is our intention. Go ahead.
Mural. Yeah, so it's a hand-painted mural. It's fairly close to what we've been doing. Yeah, it's just something different and
it breaks up the large wall of
white.
Yeah.
But it's all going to be painted because, sometimes when you're painting the brick, what are you going to do to maintain the weathering on that and to keep it fresh? And 5 years from now, when it's looking dated, what's the plan then? Because is it painted or is it some kind of a signage? How is that going to be prepared?
It's painted and then it's got a coating that goes over the top of it that protects it and also against graffiti as well. So.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Blanova.
I don't have any questions. It looks good. I like it a lot.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My one question was answered, so I have nothing else.
Thank you. And I was questioning the mural myself, but and then you have something called a living wall in the front. That was something new.
The steel structure with vines that come up. They're fake vines, but they are. It's a special type of vine. It looks very, very real unless you're literally staring like right up against it. But it's just looks like vines growing up the side of the building, basically, or up the structure.
But not actually living.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions from the commission? Anything from the fire department or engineering? Okay. And you already read the conditions? There were no additional ones, so I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll go.
That was a tie.
I'll go second.
Give it to Tatiana. She hasn't had one yet tonight.
All righty. Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Yedinek.
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Malik.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Marcy will, this one doesn't have to go to the board.
Nope.
But the special use does.
Right, special use will go to the board in January, and I will follow up with you tomorrow.
Thank you,
Thank you
gentlemen.
very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time this evening, and have good holidays.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to BC 20-22, minor site plan and appearance review for Mindful Illinois LLC / Hatch Dispensary at 1500 East Lake Cook Road. It's nice. Anything?
This is a request for minor appearance approval to modify the exterior facade of the existing TGI Fridays restaurant. They're converting the building into an adult use cannabis dispensary. And the minor appearance is required because they're modifying visible portions of the facade and no other changes are proposed to the site. The signage that you see on the plans are not part of this request. It'll be applied for under separate permit. And we do have one proposed condition, and that's that any materials proposed should be color integrated to the greatest extent possible to limit the amount of exterior materials to be painted.
Okay. Mallory, it looks like we had somebody with a raised hand.
Yes, I want Mr. Leff to let me know if Mr. McEwen is someone from his team. Yes. Okay.
Mr. Leff, you're on mute, Mr. Leff.
It looks like.
Sorry there. Yes, that's Dwayne McEwen from DMAC Architecture. He's going to lead the presentation.
Great.
And if you can also please let Jeremy Leach in, I believe. He's with DMAC as well, in case he needs to say something.
I think they're both on here now.
Okay.
There's Dwayne.
Yep. So I'm going to let Dwayne lead, and I'll chime in as necessary.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I'm not sure which screen's up. I'm seeing Gary. I'm not sure the presentation's up. Hey, Gary.
There it is.
Hey, Dwayne.
I promise to keep this, I'll do an expeditious review of this. And has the commission had a chance to look at the package prior to this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm sure everyone's aware, or if they're aware of the building, the Fridays location at 1500 East Lake Cook Road. I believe the property is around 13 years old, and it's in a rather sort of, it's in a rather sort of tired looking state at this point. And so as we're looking at, this, existing, the existing building, facing northwest, you can see primarily there's 4 or 5 colors on the building with a stone clad or tile clad entry tower at this corner. Next slide, please. And the east side of the building, pretty much more of the same palette. Again, something that you would expect seeing maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And I want to also say, for the back of the building, especially with this space, it does feel like it is the rear elevation, even though it does face some additional storefronts at the back. So that's something we're trying to address as well with the new cladding. Next slide, please. The parking lot on the west side of the building facing south. So the strategy really for us with this property was we wanted to make sure that we weren't simply just putting a sign on an existing building, that in a way that we transformed the space, the building, improving the
Your audio is breaking up.
quality of the building, but also sort of brand and authenticity. But authenticity materials with siding, vertical clad for most of the building. There are cementitious panels, that green eyebrow that marks the entry, and also frames some of the existing window fenestrations, and wraps on the other side, on the back side of the building, which we'll see in the additional slides. So this material is going to weather naturally over time. From a maintenance standpoint, this is something that's desirable, and we've used this on, high-end residential homes and other, food and beverage restaurants, hospitality spaces. So this warm gray patina is something that we're we think is very appropriate for the site. The existing, if you go back one slide, I'm sorry. So for some of the finishes on the window mullions, we're going to electrostatically paint the mullions to make those go dark. And because of the guidelines for no sight lines into the shop itself, we're using a custom printing graphic on a translucent film. So we still have natural light coming into the space, and it bathes the interior of the space with some of the green colors as well. And some of the existing cementitious panels that you see in the darker color, I think it's more of like a black bean, warm, almost black color. We're painting some of the existing panels in the in-between spaces around the perimeter of the building. The next slide, please. And then what was essentially considered the rear of the building, there is a nod to the adjacent, I think there's a Chipotle back there. There's some other restaurants, but this is a nod to the back and really sort of applying a face to the side, repainting and making upgrades to the existing, trash enclosure at the back and the existing fence, which are all in place already. Next slide, please. So as you can see, a very simple palette. The natural wood is, really the distinguishing characteristic, I believe, of the building, and also the lime green, hardy board planks. And you can see the window film application from the existing location in Addison. Next slide, please. And this is showing the same 4 elevations around the building. I'm not sure if there's any questions on the site plan, but you can see from, the lighting strategy is really to leave the site lighting, unchanged, existing. But we're replacing some of the lighting in the entry canopy. You can see at the front entry, there's downlights there. And then along, to highlight some of the warm tones of the wood, we're uplighting behind the landscape. So there's really no hot spots or points of light that will be visible in terms of light pollution, which has come up in some of the other presentations as well. Next slide, please.
I think that's it.
I think that might be it, yes. I promised you the speed round.
All right. Mr. Leff, anything else from you?
Nothing else for me. I'll turn it over to questions.
All right. Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just to clarify, the lighting that you're referring to is really just to point in toward the building, not so much outward, correct?
Correct. I mean, it's sort of like an uplight grazing, some of the existing greenery that's around the building will be tucking lights behind that to uplight the new wood tones in the building, just to punctuate the 4 corners of the building. And there's an existing downlights in the eyebrow canopy. They'll just be replaced with new lights.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blanova.
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Malik.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First thing I'd like to, when you did your presentation on the siding, we kind of missed that because your audio was broke up.
Oh, my apologies. For which part? The cedar siding you're talking about?
The tongue and groove siding?
Yes.
What? Could you go over that one more time?
So that's a natural, cedar siding, and it'll naturally patina out to a warm, shades of gray. It's not something we're looking at, painting. And we've used this in high-end residences and, restaurants as well.
I have a couple concerns about using the wood because what we all know, wood deteriorates faster than let's say, a composite material. Also, in our design guides for our codes, it states that wood is to be used as an accent material, and that is being used quite a bit more than just accent. That's full sides, full walls of wood. I'm not sure that's going to fly.
I wonder, Commissioner, if we can look at, in the back of the package, I did add a couple additional slides. If you go back, I can show you a couple of projects that show, you know, a real world use of this that's been in place for several years. You know, one of them probably 4 or 5 years. Like this is a residence where, you know, it was naturally, you know, sort of waiting for it to patina out. So that from a maintenance standpoint, it was desired that the upper portion, which is obviously much harder to maintain, goes to that natural gray color. And if you do seal it or put like a water locks or even with, I know we've used Resista in the past. I mean, we've used a lot of the the composite materials, and I'm honestly, especially for this application, I would prefer the natural cedar from an aesthetic and you know, sort of quality standpoint. If you go to the next slide, please, there's another application of, you know, it's another high-end restaurant in Greenwood, or Highwood, you know, called Greenwood. And, you know, took an old transmission shop and transformed it into a high-end restaurant. And, you know, their front door is the same material and I believe this shot was recent in terms of the Greenwood sign, where the restaurant, I believe, is 4 or 5 years old at this point.
Mm-hmm. And how's
so? I understand. Pardon me.
How is your the maintenance been for it as far as deterioration?
I mean, for cedar, because it's cedar. I mean, I think if it was a spruce or a pine, it's going to deteriorate. But the fact that it's a cedar. Yeah. And the issue with cedar, with putting like a sealer on it, like a water locks or something, it eventually turns black over time. Mm-hmm. So it's either you sort of need to leave it alone and let it sort of patina out naturally. Then it'll never go to black. It stays a sort of warm, you know, multiple shades of gray, which is again what we're trying to achieve. And we've done, you know, several years ago, we left stuff outside for 6 months. We put some, you know, different finishes, trying to accelerate the process. And some projects were literally, you know, laying boards out, you know, outside for 6 months because we want the same material to flow inside. So we get that same sort of gray, you know, washed out wood. Okay. I understand the concern. I take it very seriously. And I thought if I thought it was going to look, you know, we're not going for a shabby chic look either. We want this thing to, you know, it has a sort of pristine modern quality to it. And I think it's a little more timeless too, because it's a real material.
Mm-hmm. I noticed in your elevation pictures, you depict 2 tones on the siding. How would you achieve that?
The bottom 8 or 12 feet, that would get, it's not a stain, but we can control with pigments and dyes that bottom part to give it that delineation, so it becomes this sort of finely crafted box. And letting the upper part, which is obviously much harder if you want to, you know, if we inverted this and want to sort of, you know, add these sort of glaze or stains to the top part, that's obviously much harder to maintain. So there will be some maintenance in the bottom half, but you know, that's done off a step ladder, not a cherry picker.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I do appreciate the comment, because it's, you know, I understand.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about how it will look in a few years when it starts to degrade. And, you know, I don't want it to look like the side of an old barn, basically.
No, correct. And you and I, we're on the same page there, 100%. Mm-hmm. And I would certainly, I know Gary, you know, Gary knows where I live, so I would not want it to look like an old barn in a few years either. So.
Okay, one more question. the trash enclosure that you're planning on replacing those panels in the back with hardy panels?
We're looking at their note. I mean, there's really no, right now the existing structure is steel posts and steel cross rails, which is really not an appropriate substrate for like a hardy panel. So without sort of changing that whole enclosure. So we're looking at refurbishing that and painting it that signature color. And there might be, whether we go to a powder coated, metal enclosure, once we see what sort of shape it's in. But at this point, I think it's safe to say we're gonna paint the back area and the fence as well, or the gate.
You show it being painted your bright green color?
Yes.
I'm a little concerned with how bright that is, and then also it faces the other businesses in the complex there. I don't want it to be too brash, I guess you would call it.
No, understood. No, and I'm sure, we could study it to look at. There's really, I think, 2 or 3 shades of green to the patch logo. And whether we go to a more muted tone in the back, I think that I would have to, I'm sure Gary would be fine with, considering that. We could test that in the renderings for sure. But we did not want to make it look like it was the back of the building as well. So
I understand.
But understand, yeah.
All right, great. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
No questions for me, thank you.
Commissioner Yednak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of like old barns, but I guess maybe not on
Me
Lake
too. but not ones that are falling down.
I was curious about the 2 tones on the cedar, and you answered that question. I fully expected Commissioner Craig to ask about the painted surfaces. So I know some of the existing siding you're going to paint black. What is the material on the existing siding? And I'm not a construction person, but how what's the process going to be to make sure that paint stays pretty fresh as long as
it's a cementitious, fiberboard panel that already has been painted, I think, several times. So there's lots of paints that will stick to that. There's lots of paints that'll stick to glass. So I know there's different formulas that we can, and that are specific to, over painting hardy board that we can apply. And so that's what we've specified.
You haven't spec'd the materials or the process yet? That's to be.
Well, we specify the paint. I think it's a Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore paint. So.
Okay, but then does that process, since you said it has been painted a bunch, do those surfaces need to be treated ahead of time or pressure washed or anything to prep them?
That's in our specs with the general contractor. So they will, if they need to prep it, to scarify the surface so that we get proper adhesion. That's something they will do for sure.
Okay, so yes. that's on the contractor.
Yes, typically it's rubbed up with a 60 grit sandpaper. If there's
the red one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think that was Gary's mic's on. That's all.
Oh, I thought he added something. Okay.
No,
sorry.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Then thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also had concerns with the cedar siding. What happens at ground level where we're gonna have snow here in a few days? Does that snow get absorbed into the cedar and deteriorate faster?
We are elevated. We are elevated off the ground. It's not touching Mother Earth. It is elevated.
Okay, because it doesn't look like it on the renderings I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, it's not. There is definitely, a skirt board at the bottom, and, it's flashed underneath so that it is, it's not going into the dirt or the mulch bed.
Marcy, what is our take on using wood paneling on exteriors from a village viewpoint?
Our guidelines do stress or guide the petitioner towards, masonry, but, this also does break up the monotony in the area to provide, something different. So, staff is okay with it.
Okay. And then I also shared Commissioner Sprague's concern about the large green fence on the backside that's facing the other businesses. I would definitely look at going to a more muted shade of green or...
Right, so if we went more to like a jade green or like an evergreen, like a darker bottle than the lime green, understood. I think, Gary, I'm pretty sure that'll still look good. So I don't think that's really, I appreciate the concern. I think we can easily do that.
All right. Now, this is probably part of getting your license from the state, but the secure area that you need for transferring things, is that just inside that gated area or that fenced area? You're not actually going inside the building?
Correct. I mean, there's no man trap, and I think Gary can see. Yeah, sorry, Gary. You know more about this.
Yeah, no, there's no man trap. You're going into the loading dock there, and then back into the wheeling carts into the building from in the back door.
All right. I think that's all I had. Marcy, did staff have any other concerns?
No, we just had the one condition about materials being integrated to limit the amount of exterior materials being painted.
Okay. Can we add a condition to somehow word painting that back fence to the more muted colors?
I have a question. If we were to, because we have that color elsewhere, and if we determine through going, through construction that is the right color, will we have an opportunity to come back to appeal? Or, what will that process look like? Or is this a final decision? Because we want it to look great as well, and we have, good judgment, so we're not going to do anything that's garish. I think our track record, Dwayne and I have worked together on projects for the last 20 years, and I don't think anything could be described as garish. So, so I don't know how to word it, but I asked maybe for a little bit of trust or at least the opportunity to come back and present if we feel it's appropriate.
Mallory, how would that work?
Well, they definitely always have the option to come back, so if you make a condition now to have them, if it's going to be, there's two approaches. One, you can give them the option of painting it either the proposed color or one of the alternative green colors within their hatch logo, or you can have them change it, and if they want to change it back, they can always come back for a minor site plan approval again. So those are so you can either give them the flexibility now, or you can make the change now, and then if they want to go back to what's proposed right now, they would just come back for a minor site plan approval.
It's hard to say looking at it in a rendering versus seeing that big green wall.
And it's not a photoreal rendering either, so
right.
It's a little deceptive too. And I think to Gary's
and just
point,
one other. Yeah, go ahead, Dwayne.
No, I was going to say, we could definitely do a mock-up on the back too. Some of the commission members want to do a drive-by, whatever. I mean, I think it's. We're going to be rigorous about the process and what we do. If we thought it was too, if we spent the money or Gary just spent the money to paint it, and we thought it was too bright, we would paint over it as well. We sort of. We're going to make sure we get it right no matter what, and obviously within the guidelines of what we need to achieve based on this approval. But
all right, Commissioner Sprague, you got a question?
Yeah, I was thinking that we could leave it up to them to choose what they think is best, but then leave it open that if there are any complaints about it being too bright or obscene, then they would understand that they would have to repaint it, something a little, you know, less obtrusive.
Perfectly comfortable with that. I think that's a terrific suggestion.
That's fair. I mean,
So
it seems like a common sense approach too, right? Sort of like we want to be good neighbors, good tenants, so it makes sense.
if Potbellies start saying that all their sandwiches look green, we can we can ask you to.
But you know, in a sea of asphalt, it's a splash of green too. So I think it's sort of it's a welcome relief on a dreary February day in Chicago or Wheeling.
All right.
Yeah, so the
A little bit of sunshine, in February maybe.
Compared to the wall next door that they're going to paint.
Yeah, see?
Valerie?
Right.
We didn't show you the mural, but yeah, never mind.
Go ahead.
So the condition could be worded that the petitioner has the flexibility to paint that back wall enclosure, whatever the technical term is for it, one of the other greens within the logo, and should understand that if there were complaints by other tenants in the shopping center, that they may have to repaint
Substantiated
it.
complaints, right? So it's not just somebody that has nothing to do and doesn't like
Right,
green.
tenants, yeah.
Right.
Not just some resident who happened to make a comment that.
Yes.
Okay, can you?
I think
Oh,
Gary,
she's writing it.
that seems fair, right? I mean,
Yeah, I think we have confidence that what we deliver will be aesthetically pleasing, and I'm willing to take that risk, and I want to be a good neighbor, so absolutely.
Okay, so I have the petitioner has the flexibility to paint the enclosure walls one of the other greens that are in the logo, and understands that if there are substantiated complaints by tenants, they shall repaint as directed by staff.
By neighboring
Right, so
tenants?
it's any of the greens that are in the logo, not, right? It's any of the greens that are in the
Yes.
logo, not one of
Yeah.
the other greens.
Yeah, so
And then-
if there's a muted version that.
Any of
you
the
think looks
greens
good?
in the logo.
And,
and honestly, from a due diligence standpoint too, we're going to probably, if you drive by there, you'll see test paint going on the back of the building. We want to make sure we get it right before we paint the
Yeah, I
holes.
think also, we should add that, the proposed color should be submitted to staff for approval prior to with the building permit application. That'll be a third condition.
Yes. Yep. And can we say, right, so any of the colors in the logo, and if there's substantiated complaints or however that's worded, we'll replace it with one of the alternative colors in the logo?
And this is only for that rear elevation, correct?
Just, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could say that.
That just makes it sort of a little bit more concrete.
Right, but it has,
how we resolve it.
right, but the village has to have some input on what it is, so that's why it's directed by staff.
Yes.
Green is the new favorite color of 2021.
I'm pretty sure the Pantone colors were pretty beige and they weren't great.
I thought it was,
It was a yellow
coral.
and red.
I thought it was coral for 2020, and it's lime green for 2021. Sorry.
I had some kitchen appliances that matched that color back in the day.
Back in the day.
So when do you think you're gonna decide on this, color? Because I know you're looking to get your building permit.
Well, I think we can submit the color ASAP, the current color, and then see if it's approved. We'll still test it and come back to you if we want to change it to get it reapproved with staff. But if you want to, if it has to be part of our building approval, Dwayne, we would just submit it ASAP, correct?
Correct, but I think we want to mock it up.
Is the commission fine if it stays as is? Because now, as it's written right now, it could stay the green that it is right now.
Yeah, I think
right,
we're
any of the colors in the logo, and then if they're substantiated, staff has approval, and then if there's substantiated complaints after that, we'll happily change it to one of the other colors in the logo.
Okay.
I think it's.
But I don't think we want to hold up the permit, right?
No,
For sure.
not because of your green paint. No.
Yes.
No, that's what I'm saying. So if you want to, right now, the plan commission is approving the color that you're seeing. And if they want to change it, they're going to have to submit it with their building permit or prior to getting building permit approval.
Oh.
Which they're in for building permits right now.
But we're giving them a condition that says they could change it.
If they want to.
Or if there's complaints.
Right. So they would just need to amend their permit if they do that.
Right, but the condition is they could put it any color that's in their logo. So I just want everyone to understand that right now, they would be getting approval to make it this green. And then if there's any complaints, that they would change it.
Yes.
Right,
I think everybody's in agreement on that? If not, raise your hand. Okay. We're good with that.
Okay.
Do we need to put anything in there about making sure that there is a gap at the bottom? Because, like I said, their renderings make it look like.
Well, I think he was saying it doesn't touch the earth, but the siding will touch the sidewalk. Correct, Dwayne?
No, it'll be still. There's still daylight between. We're not going to let it wick up any moisture from the below, for sure.
Right. So what's in between there is what Chairman Johnson is asking.
I mean, it's daylight. There's nothing. It's an air gap. There's nothing in between. It's really a rain screen on the outside of the building.
So when you have 3 feet of snow on the side of the building, that's not a problem?
It'll be, if there's 3 feet of snow on the side of the building, it'll either be shoveled away or it'll be there for, a little while and I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
One of the images I showed you is actually a house up in Canada that gets 8 feet of snow on the side of it and it's been fine.
All right. So, what are all the conditions we have now?
Well, I guess I'm a little confused about the second condition, but so the first one is all materials proposed should be color integrated to the greatest extent possible to limit the amount of exterior materials to be painted. Number 2, the petitioner has the flexibility to paint the enclosure walls one of the colors in the logo and understands that if there are substantiated complaints by tenants, they shall repaint.
And that's just the back we said, right? The back dot.
Yes.
Just talking about the trash enclosure walls.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Got it. Thank you.
We're not going to have you change your logo or anything.
Right, and then if the color, or if the petitioner proposes to change the color, it shall be submitted to staff for review and approval.
That it?
Yep.
Okay. Last call for questions. And if not, then a motion would be appreciated.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Berkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova?
Yes.
Commissioner Yedinak?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Malik?
Yes.
Chairman Johnson?
Yes. Thanks for hanging in there, gentlemen.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone, for your time, and we look forward to pushing forward and opening hopefully sometime in March. So happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
And to you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Happy holidays. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Back to my screen here. Approval of minutes of the regular meeting of December 2nd, 2020, including findings of fact for docket numbers 2020-16, 2020-20, 2020-33, and 2020-34. I understand Commissioner Yednek sent in a bunch of corrections.
Yes, there was some corrections by Commissioner Yednek, and also Commissioner Sprague gave me one. So those corrections have been made.
All right. So I need a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
So moved.
Commissioner Yednek,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova,
Yes.
Commissioner Berkey,
Yes.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner Malik,
I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here for the last meeting.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Other business. Ms. Nyes, anything?
Nope.
Mallory, anything?
Happy holidays and see everyone in 2021.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Sprague.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'd also like to wish everyone Merry Holidays. I think, what are we on a break now for like 4 weeks or something?
The next meeting is January 13th, I think.
Yeah, January 13th. So yeah, it's going to seem like that.
Yeah,
We anticipate that'll be virtual or live?
Yeah.
Yes.
It'll still be virtual for as long as we can tell.
Okay.
All right, well, everyone enjoy the break, and we'll see you next year.
Commissioner Thompson.
See you next year. Happy holiday.
Nothing for me, thanks. Happy holidays, everyone.
Commissioner Blanova.
Thank you. Just want to say welcome to a new commissioner, and can't wait to meet already two of them in person. And just wish happy holidays. Glad that 2020 is ending.
Commissioner Berkey.
Thank you. Just happy holidays to everyone, and also welcome to Commissioner Malik, and thank you because I'm not the new guy anymore.
Yeah, you were the new guy for a whole 2 meetings. Commissioner Yednek.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say is I wanted to promise Marty that we really do have meetings that are shorter than the ones you've been at so far. And happy holidays to everybody, and stay safe.
Commissioner Malik.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. It's been welcoming, and really appreciate the emails I've been getting from staff and the meeting I had to get me set up. And I look forward to being an active member of this commission going forward. Thank you, everyone. And happy holidays.
It's nice to have all the seats filled again, and you guys did join. You and Commissioner Berkey joined at a very busy time. Honestly, there have been meetings that only went 15 minutes, so we will get back to that at some point. I have nothing other than happy holidays to all, and see you next year. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Commissioner Sprague is a yes. Commissioner Berkey.
Yes.
Commissioner Blanova.
Yes.
Commissioner Yednak.
Yes, and good night.
Commissioner Thompson.
Yes.
Commissioner Malik.
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Yes. Thank you all, and we'll see you next year.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Being adjourned.
Good night.
Good night.